Here are a couple of bourbons that are different than other bourbons that we have here at the Soaring Pig. Now, while they're both Kentucky straight bourbons, both of these have the words bottled in bond on the label. Today, March 3rd, 2020, is the 123rd anniversary of the Bottled in Bond Act of 1897. Today, we're going to look at bottled in bond in terms of what it meant in 1897 and what it means today. Before the Bottled in Bond Act of 1897, the production of whiskey in the United States was completely unregulated, which means that unscrupulous whiskey manufacturers could put just about any shit in a barrel or a bottle and call it whiskey, and they often did, stuff that absolutely did not belong in the bottle. There was some shady ass business going on in the whiskey business back in the late 1800s. There were two camps. You had the distillers who were making a quality product under fairly solid methods in terms of what the mash bill was, how long the product was aged, what strength, alcohol by volume strength it was bottled at. And then you had the rectifiers who would blend stuff together, often taking neutral grain spirits and adding flavor elements like iodine, tobacco juice, to create a flavor profile that mimicked or replicated whiskey. Now, given that a lot of people used whiskey medicinally, you ran the risk of making sick people even sicker. Well, as you can imagine, the distillers were not happy about that because the rectifiers could make whiskey cheaper and quicker than they could with their solid methods. So they went to the government and said, please regulate our industry. Now, the Bottled in Bond Act of 1897 is actually the first American Consumer Protection Act. In fact, predates the Pure Food and Drug Act by 9 full years. Under the Bottled in Bond Act, the rules were absolutely clear. The whiskey had to come from a single distiller. Not only that, the whiskey had to be from a single distillation season. It had to be aged for a minimum of 4 years in a government-inspected and controlled warehouse. It had to be bottled at 100 proof or 50% alcohol by volume. The label had to identify where the whiskey was distilled, and it had to identify where the whiskey was bottled if it was bottled at a different place than where it was distilled. And the only thing that could be added to the whiskey was water. No iodine, no tobacco juice from a spittoon. Water was the only thing that could be added. Now, the rectifiers weren't happy about any of this, and they went to the Secretary of Agriculture trying to get him to change the rules. Secretary of Agriculture would have no part, and their plea was not heard. Now, to signify that the product met these strict new rules, a green tax stamp was put over the top of the bottle. The tax stamp showed the year and the season that the whiskey was distilled and bottled. Anyone who tried to reuse the tax stamp or make a fake tax stamp ran the risk of a $1,000 fine and 5 years of hard labor in prison. That $1,000 fine in today's money is about 25 grand, so that and 5 years of labor was no small penalty. In 1984, Big Brother stopped watching so closely, and the tax stamp requirement was removed. But the words bottled in bond can still be found on a whiskey, particularly bourbons, telling you that you have a quality product that follows a process steeped in whiskey history. And there you have it, the explanation of bottled in bond. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll keep churning out these obscure little facts about whiskey, along with our reviews.